Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum to everyone, wherever you are around the world, at home. Thank you for joining us. I know we all pray for the chance to gather, in person again, inshallah. But at least we can make the most of this opportunity and to connect with some very talented, very wise folks here using this technology. And we'll have a great discussion today, inshallah, on the topic, the very important topic, the very personal topic for many, of Islam and hip hop. So, just to introduce our speakers, I mean our guests today, they're both, mashallah, they've been blessed with tremendous talent, with skills. They are both critically acclaimed artists. They are teachers. These are people who, we're not talking about, with all respect, we're not talking about MSA hip hop today. These are producers, and creators of a culture, right, on a national and a global scale. And I'm very personally very honored to spend the time with them today. These 40 minutes, 45 minutes that we have today. And I hope that the conversation is of benefit. So just to quickly introduce them both, although again, they really need no introduction. First, our sister Taslim Jamila, she's the CEO of Soul Speaks, is a healing artist educator. She uses spirituality, culture, holistic healing as a performer, poet, filmmaker, curator, fashion designer, playwright, actor, holistic health artist educator whose body of work focuses on social action, community empowerment, and revitalization, utilizing indigenous sound healing modalities and technology. She is a 2020-2021 Iman Creative Cipher Artist Fellow, completing a graduate program, spirituality, culture, and health, and teaches a university religion class as well. Her knowledge and experience have led her to teach K through 12, university level, and adult classes and workshops worldwide. We're very grateful to have her here with us. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, Sister Taslim. And our other guest, our brother Ali, is a highly respected hip hop artist, speaker, and community leader from Minneapolis. His 2-decade resume includes 8 critically acclaimed albums, mentorships with iconic hip hop legends Chuck D and Rakim, and performances on late night talk shows with Jimmy Fallon and Conan O'Brien. His provocative and uplifting brand of hip hop has earned him coveted press features like Rolling Stone's 40th anniversary edition and Source Magazine's legendary hip hop quotables, while his outspoken social justice act message has landed him on government watch lists. He's also lectured at universities from Princeton to Stanford and delivered the keynote address at the Nobel Peace Prize Forum. When he's not rocking the mic at Coachella or being arrested for civil disobedience in support of marginalized communities, Brother Ali travels the world learning and teaching Islamic spirituality under some of today's renowned Muslim leaders. In addition to leading worship services and classes, he co-founded the Gamali Project, an organization that helps Muslim converts and spiritual seekers across access the beauty of the Islamic tradition. So thank you, Brother Ali, Sister Taslim. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor. I am not the most qualified person to facilitate this discussion. So it might come off rather as a fan speaking to teachers, and leaders of this tradition. But we'll do the best that we can. So thank you for your time. Welcome. If we could just kick it off, we'll start with just your just to help our audiences introduce you. I'll say that I expect our audience to be a mix between people who perhaps follow, are members of the MAS organization, and we thank MAS, of course, for convening this gathering as well. I neglected to say there are going to be many people listening in who know each of you and respect each of you and your bodies of work. That may be the greater number, the greater proportion. But if I could start, and I'll start with Sister Taslim. We'll kick it to you first, please. I wanted to get a sense from you, if you could explain, where did Islam and hip hop meet, or where does Islam and hip hop meet in your life? In your biography and in your work. Where is that intersection for you? Those intersections.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. Um, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, as far as where it meets in my work, wow, that's a question that's very heavy,
Yeah.
but it really, it's the work that I do today is because of hip hop, and the reason why I actually became Muslim. I grew up in a household, a Christian background. Went to church every Sunday. My father was one of the big deacons in the church, Baptist church, still to this day. My dad is 84. And my mom, even though she was Christian, she was always one of those metaphysical people, though. Like she didn't go to church. And she said that people only cared about what they had on and what they looked like. So she was more into the natural healing, the metaphysical and the spiritual. So I had both of those growing up, those aspects of life. And so I knew nothing about Islam. So and I had no known relatives that were Muslim, and grew up in the south side of Chicago. But my first memories of hip hop, really, I had older sisters, or I have older sisters, and they're a lot older than me, maybe 10 years and more. I have was five girls in the household, and I just remember hearing the messages in the music that were very powerful. Just growing up, hearing on the radio, and the first thing that I really heard aspects of Islam was in music.
Mm.
So I heard lyrics like in Rakim, all praises due to Allah, and that's
Mhm.
a blessing. People saying Assalamu alaikum in the music, and that really planted a seed that
Mhm.
blossomed to today. And I started to surround myself with just everything I could dig into when it came to the elements of hip hop. So back in the day when cassettes were
Right.
popular,
Right. Right. Right.
it would be on the radio recording everything that I heard as far as when it came to hip hop. They would put them in the mixes, even in Chicago, where you had house music and hip hop were kind of cousins hand in
Sure.
hand. You hear them in the music. And so I was always a seeker. I was always one of those children who would look out the window. I remember in fifth grade and just talk to God and write letters to God and say,
Mhm.
what is the purpose of life? I was always one of those people contemplating on
Mhm.
wanting to know more. And so when I heard it in the music and I would see it even on shows like the Donahue show, the first aspects of people that I saw that were Muslim and in my community were from the Nation of Islam. So I
Mm.
see the brothers on the corner, grew up on the south side. So you have the main masjid on the south side of Chicago, Mosque Mariam. And I would see them with the papers, the final call
Mhm.
papers. So they were
Mhm.
doing the heavy dawah when I didn't see
Mhm.
anybody else doing it.
Right.
And that really, especially being from Black in America, it showed dignity, self-respect. And anytime I would go to any kind of hip hop conferences or events, even as I got older, the Nation of Islam was always there with
Mm.
security. And even in the songs, you had people giving reference to Minister Farrakhan or
Yeah.
Nation of Islam, the five
Father Muhammad. Right. Right.
knowledge of self. So coming up in hip hop, it was about being intelligent. And I
Mhm.
went to Columbia College. My first college years were at Columbia College when I converted to Islam when I was 17. When I was in high school, I
Mhm.
met Muslims there, they were friends actually with Common, a Muslim brother. He
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
Nigerian and other friends that I was around. And so they were just like into their health. They didn't eat, pork at the time. They didn't eat red
Mhm.
meat. So it was just attractive, a whole
Right.
attractive, high
Right.
vibrational life that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm gonna do that,
Mhm.
instantly.
Mhm.
And so going to Columbia College, being at Columbia College Chicago, is an art school. So a lot of my friends were MCs. You had some that were in the 5%er, Nation Islam, Sunni Muslim. It was everybody. And we would say, we're going to have a cipher outside of class. And I'm like, what's a cipher? But it wasn't necessarily rapping in the cipher. It was knowledge. So in our backpacks,
Right.
we had the books of, they came before Columbus. We had
Mhm.
the books of How to Eat to Live, the autobiography of Malcolm X. So this opened
Right.
up a whole nother world. So inside the school, yeah, I had the school stuff. I went to
Yeah.
school theater and fashion design, but the real school was in the ciphers afterwards, and with the backpacks with Muslims of diverse backgrounds, and just the beauty of it. So that's really my introduction. That introduces me today, even to in my later years, going back to graduate school as a
Mhm.
scholar. It comes from Islam,
Yeah.
all searching and wanting to learn and wanting
Yeah.
to elevate in that way. It's a very, to me, high vibrational healing art form. And it's in the message of Islam in the beginning, just interweave so beautifully in the music resonated with me even to today. It really dictates who I am.
Yeah. No, beautiful, beautiful. I want to bring, there's so much history we want to dig into. I want to bring in Brother Ali. I'm going to hit you with the same question, and we just gave you a minute to think about it. Where in your life did, where did and does, Islam and hip hop intersect, but especially in your growth, as an artist? Yeah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum. I'm really honored to be part of this panel with you both. And Sister Tasneem is somebody who, like anybody that knows the circle of Muslim artists in America, know that she's somebody that we really revere, and like she's like a really legendary figure in our lives. And so alhamdulillah, I was glad that I would be embarrassed to speak before her. And I'm alhamdulillah. So I'm an albino. As I get older, I think people can't tell as much.
That's right.
But I've basically looked like the Kentucky Fried Chicken Man my whole life, even when I was a little boy. And so experienced a lot of difficulty with that, a lot of cruelty. Growing up in the Midwest in little towns, especially predominantly white towns. My parents are European American. My mother's adopted, and so we're not sure where she's from. But she is a white lady, or was. Both of my parents have passed. And so, I experienced extreme, now they call it bullying, but just really dehumanization from the people that I was around, from other little kids from a really young age, mostly dealing with being an albino. And so my mother was adopted into a Norwegian American family. She had dark hair, dark eyes, and she dyed her hair blonde so that she could fit in with the Norwegian family, and living in Wisconsin and things like that. Mm-hmm. And she had been adopted by a family named Anderson. So she dyed her hair blonde, and she just kind of mixed in with everybody in her group. And so she had the idea, based on her experience, to dye my hair when we switched schools, so that maybe I could just fit in. And so, we went to a place. We had to go to a few different places to figure out how to do it. And she eventually was able to dye my hair blonde. But I realized that I was wearing a disguise, and I was disguising myself not only to look other than what I really am, but to appeal to and to please and to dress up as the people who were making me feel so terrible. This is running concurrently with the fact that among the African diaspora, there's a really, really high percentage of albinos compared to the rest of the world. For people of European descent, 1 in 20,000 are albino. For people from the sub-Saharan Africa, from the Black African diaspora, it's 1 in 5,000. So, Black people all over the world understand albinism. They know what it is. They, by and large, celebrate it for the most part. So anywhere I am in the world, even as an adult, if I see African people, they always look out for me. They always treat me as, part of the family. And that happened from the time that I was really young. And what I realized is that dyeing my hair was actually depressing me. And there was a woman a Black woman who worked at my school, who basically helped me understand the fact that if you don't have self-love, if you don't believe in who you are, if you're not ready to, as the Nation of Islam says, accept your own and do for self, to accept who you are and believe in who you are and love yourself the way that God made you, then you can forget it. Don't worry about anybody else ever accepting you, because you will be a loser from the beginning. So she really taught me how to live, not only her, but others as well, based on the concept of Black is beautiful. So what that did for me is it gave me, and this is at 7, 8 years old, it gave me the framework and to really understand. Later, now I have the linguistic tools. I've the rest of the story is being filled in by world history and things like this, that we're all suffering under the pandemic, the 500-year pandemic of modernity that goes hand in hand with white supremacy, with white body supremacy, where the white body, which is a creation of the modern world, the idea of whiteness is a creation of the modern world, is the creation of people that don't believe in God, that actually the people that rebel against the idea of God. These people created this identity. And what the world has been suffering under since then, nobody has mastered it like the children of the African diaspora. Nobody has mastered living in it, surviving it, but not only surviving it with humanity completely intact. So that Imam Warthi Muhammad, Allah have mercy on him, the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, basically named the African diaspora Balalian. You know, this is a community of people who understand the trappings of the modern world and also have had to survive in ways that are really beautiful, and so are in a position to call humanity back to the original fitra, the original nature. And that was the experience that I had. So that's what introduced me to hip hop. Like, that became my community, and that's my introduction into hip hop, because, you know, to me, I didn't learn about Black life and Black culture and Black people through music and through cultural production. I learned from being in people's houses, from loving people, being loved by them, from fighting people and being fought by them, from challenging people and being challenged by them, from living life and forgiving people and being forgiven by them, the real nitty-gritty stuff of life. And so when I discovered hip hop around the same time, I realized, like, oh, maybe this will be the opportunity for people to see my adopted family and community the way that I see them. So I fell in love with all the same people as Sister Tasneem. I was in a lot of those same kind of circles that Sister Tasneem describes. It rings true all over the world. Anywhere where Black people are, there are those circles. They happen in London. You can go on YouTube and look at the park where the people debate in London. It slips my mind now. But the Nation of Islam there, the 5%ers are there.
Speaker's Corner,
the Pan-Africans are there. You know what I'm saying? It's the whole thing happens there. And so I actually heard Malcolm and heard Minister Farrakhan and heard 5%ers and heard, a variety of Muslims the same way that we all did. But I actually had a beautiful experience to go and hear KRS-One from the Mighty Boogie Down Productions crew in the Bronx, New York, give a lecture. And in the lecture, he talked a lot about Malcolm, and he talked a lot about all of these amazing things. And at the end of the lecture, I asked a question, asked him to sign my book, and he brought me on stage at 12 years old, signed my book, and told me that I should read the autobiography of Malcolm X. So when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, I said, I was already in love with Islam, but I didn't know if there was a place for me in Islam. And when Malcolm went to Hajj, he experienced people who look white, who the modern world would call white, but he said they don't have that disposition. They haven't been, inculcated with this devilish disposition of white body supremacy. And so he said, maybe if the European American people in Islam, or in America, in the West, would study Islam, it would reconnect them with being human again. And I don't know any, all of the prominent and everyday white American Muslims that I know in my age group are inspired by Black Islam, are inspired by hip hop, are inspired by Malcolm. Even the scholars, I mean, even Yahya Rhodus and Suhaib Webb and others. And then our elders that come from a generation earlier, they're inspired by it as well, even though they didn't necessarily grow up in it. But, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf is really interested in hip hop. And Dr. Omar Farouk Abdullah is profoundly interested in hip hop. So it really, the reality is that the Black voice throughout the world is the voice that calls back to God, and is the voice that calls back to meaning, and are the exemplars for how to survive modernity. The question is, how slow is it taking the rest of us to realize that? How long is it taking to realize that we have a reminder of God living amongst us? But we're so conditioned by white supremacy that we think like, oh, that music is just for twerking. That music is just for selling products. That music is just for celebrating material. That's the hip hop that the white business world chose to sell and to broadcast. But the reality is that all of these things that we see, twerking is just a reappropriated old African cultural expression that doesn't happen on TV, that doesn't happen in front of everybody, you know.
Sure.
And so, you know, this is the thing that's really important, and I'm
Yeah.
glad for discussions like this.
No, great. Thank you. That's thank you for the history. I want to actually, that's a great point I wanted to dive into. You know, is the idea of, and perhaps we'll start again with Sister Taslim. The idea of hip hop culture. You know, I think that there are people of a certain generation, right? And I'm probably on the younger side of that generation that remembers a hip hop culture, right? That had a and its component, you know, art forms, the different art forms, you know, that make it up, right? And the different parts of the culture, you know, that make it up. And it's a great ocean, right, to draw from. And then, of course, you know, as you started to tell Brother Ali, you know, it becomes commodified, you know, and there are interests and agendas, right, that find ways to profit from it and perhaps even use it in destructive ways too, you know. But I want to, you know, then rewind from there, and if you could perhaps, you know, tell us about, you know, hip hop culture in a broader sense, right, and how, of course, Islam is influential on that, which you started to explain, you know. But what is the core of it? Is it always about social justice? Is it always about rebellion, or does it not have to be? Right? Are there there are so many different narratives, right, that are part of that? And so, you know, I just wanted to hear from you if you could educate, you know, us, you know, historically, you know, how do you find Islam's impact on hip hop culture? What is hip hop culture, and where might it be going, right, in a time where it's globalizing but also being increasingly commoditized?
Okay, well, that's a very weighted question.
It's huge, and just, you know, I want you guys to converse freely, please.
No, that's good. So I'll just give my, you know, perspective on it. History. Well, with the history of hip hop, of course, it started in the Bronx, New York City, with Black and Latino youth, and I know it came out of. So actually, it's an answer to, or it's an expression what was going on in their lives at the time. So think about it. Actually, I was just talking to my husband about this today. Like he's a hip hop historian and hip hop historian, and we were just talking about it. He said, if at the time in the Bronx at that time, if they had all the jobs that they wanted, they had musical programs and they had everything, you know, they needed. It may have been another form of expression, but it may not have been like hip hop or what it is today. So it didn't happen in the suburbs. It happened in the city with they were burning down things. There weren't enough, you know, musical programs. It was poverty. And so it was an answer, a solution, a remedy, a healing, a message in that to speak out. It's revolutionary to speak out against what was going on in the community as a voice for the people at that time. And I believe it still is a voice for those who are oppressed, or just to liberate people in that way, a message of hope, a message of healing. And like Brother Ali, he's one of the dopest MCs out, period. You know, just so I'm humbled, as he said, just to be on the panel with him. And if you listen even to the messages that he conveys over the years, and you'll see even knowledge of self. You'll see, like this morning, it's interesting. I was reading Al-Ghazali's book, The Alchemy of Happiness. In the beginning, the first chapter is what? Knowledge of self. Right. So it goes back. You'll see his growth and his evolution, even in hip hop and the music and his spiritual ascensions. You see that replicated in that. So to me, hip hop is all of that. It is you do have your hip hop that is commercialized. You do have the hip hop that is, you know, degrading women, and you have some just partying. So you have all of that right now, but it started out as a voice for the people, expression, a message for those who were oppressed, a way to express yourself. And all the music wasn't always about, quote unquote, you know, God conscious things. You had some just fun. I mean, it was
life. Complex, right? Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, as I had a wide spectrum of music that I would listen to, all the way from
to this day for me, yeah, sure.
You know, some people might say, "What?" to even Luke. I mean, I used to listen to all of it. to Rakim to this, and so it was a wide spectrum that I could choose from. Like, okay, if I want the fun music, I want the party music, I want the let me go do some research and what they're talking about music, the way that Black Thought, even today you might want to research that. So it was all of those elements. It was the having fun. It was the graffiti. It was at first about the DJ, rocking the crowd. It was about the breaking. It was, the popping, the community, the ciphers. And so today, yes, it is a lot of that, but you don't have, to me, on a mainstream level, you don't have the aspects there. It's slowly coming back. And I think one thing that COVID is doing is really making people go internally inside themselves. And I'm just thinking about it, even with the Grammy nominations, you have, as a Grammy nominated, you have Jay Electronica and you have Royce the Five Nine.
Right.
It's really, and I am a voting member of the Academy, and I was like, wow, this is dope how you have all of these people. It's just, to me, a sign of the time. So I look at it like people are really going in themselves and saying, what is essential? What is important? They're looking at the spiritual realms and the higher realms. And to me, that's the essence of hip hop. They always say the unofficial religion of hip hop is Islam. And to me, that's really, Islam is spirituality. It's the inner calling, it's the inner longing, it's the beating of the drums, it's the calling back to the spirit realm for help, for assistance. And so I really think it's coming back to that. And it's a really beautiful thing. And even on my my last album I just had came out last month, I think it was. 5 of the songs were produced by Public Enemy's Professor Griff. And so I was really blessed to be able to, work with him. And before COVID, I went to Atlanta to record, and was just with him. He just encouraged me, because I was kind of like, okay, if I have something come out, if I don't, I had a lot of things that didn't work out, but I'm always working on other things. Like I did actually a hip hop spoken word play, the debut, called Portals Open in the Hip Hop Theater Festival in Chicago. So I'm always working on things. But when he contacted me, he's always kept in touch over the years to say, look, when are you going to come out with your album? Even though, I'm a poet, spoken word artist, but he's like, your message has to be out there. We need that for the times. And so I'm looking at now, even though it is, you have a lot of, commercialism, misogynistic, like lyrics in this, but now, to me, that's kind of coming back around to see the nominations that you have now. People are yearning for their for a higher spiritual reality in every aspect of their lives. It's forcing you to go within, because you have nowhere else to go. And so, I thought that was really powerful when I saw that needs and what it really stands for.
Can I even, as a follow-up, and I also, I listen to a wide range of musics, even within hip hop. It's not always, the first thing that we think of, in terms of halal and conscious music. I've been really moved to recently to see how more and more artists, including young artists coming up, even early in their careers, right, seem to be accepting Islam, right? And it's not just from, people that seem super thoughtful, but even in some of the hardest, like Chicago drill artists, seem to be accepting Islam. In New York, it was always that way. I noticed that, these guys coming out of Buffalo, the Griselda Records guys, seem to be, some of them at least seem to have accepted Islam. Atlanta, it's in a way, it seems different than it was, right? Because there seemed to be, from one perspective, Islam, we feel that history of Islam and conscious hip hop, right? But also there seems to be an appeal of Islam, or Islam has an appeal also to other artists, right? And I'm curious also about capturing, that. What do you think it is about Islam then, right, that is still connecting, despite perhaps not much dawah being done, right, in certain ways, without having a leader, a clear leader? Like, why is that? Do you think that that there's still this attraction, that there's still this interest in Islam, right, even in pop mainstream hip hop?
Oh, okay. Well, I think that people are always searching for truth, and Islam is truth. And you have the only book in existence that has not been tampered with, the Holy Quran. And so I think just in that very essence of who they are, you think about the elements of hip hop, the knowledge of self on the streets, the people, like I said, with me coming from Chicago, and you name some artists from Chicago, you always had the respect, especially in the Black community. You always had the respect of people did respect Muslims. In everyone's family, you had a Muslim or somebody who changed their name to Amir from, Aaron or something. You always had that. Even yesterday, my sister called me, who's not Muslim, and she's like, "Hey, I don't live in Chicago anywhere, but she's like, where can I get a good bean pie from? And like, for COVID, she's looking for the good bean pie. I'm like, okay, go on 73rd. The brothers on, they should be Supreme bean pie. They got the original. What do you want? So these are things that are like common. And I know I first became Muslim, even back in the day, just walking down the street in Chicago, everybody, whether they're Muslim or not, they gave you the greetings. You had the respect. So I think now
New York is that way too still. Yep.
Yeah. You have they gave me the greetings. They know, don't mess with her. So it's kind of, I think, coming back around to that. I think the internet has a lot to do with it too. In that way. And you do have a lot of people underground in Chicago still doing a lot of work out there. You have brothers and sisters who are still on the streets doing a lot of things in the community that like on national or CNN or the big media work, and then also just with the internet. And it's really a lot makes Muslims. I think it's the time it's coming back, and that wave of truth. How I grew up in with the 90s hip hop, but it's really coming back to that wave of that energy of people are searching for something. They're searching reality. Everybody's into crystals, and I need healing, and I'm mindful, and I'm meditation, and I'm this, and Islam has everything. And so it's full. And even in me knowing that I'm a holistic health practitioner and back to school, and it's like I'm looking always at Islam. Islam has everything. And so people are recognizing that, and they're starting to study. I was looking on the bestseller list of Islamic books. And of course, the Holy Quran is up there, bestseller books. And everybody's into Rumi poetry. And they think about, why do you like Rumi so much? Because he was Muslim. Why do you like Malcolm X so much? And I tell people, don't talk about Malcolm X. The reason why he is disciplined like that, because he was Muslim, Muhammad Ali. So it's the same thing. And I just saw another author publish the book on becoming Muhammad Ali for the youth. So he's talking about his youth and how he became who he is. And so you can't separate that people are really searching for something solid. They're searching for a higher standard of life, and Islam has that. And it's resonating right now in this time that we're in. And it's just time for people to come back to ultimate, to truth, who they are, knowledge of self. Like Al-Ghazali said, yourself, God. That's hip hop, and that's Islam.
Right.
But I think we have to be careful.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful too about really separating hip hop and separating community into like, well, what's the conscious rap and what's not, and like what's the and we're all kind of saying that in our discussion here, that the reality is that hip hop comes from a communal experience, and you have all type of people that make up a community, just like you have all the type of people that make up a family. And so, people that really come from that experience and live in that world, the different artists make sense for who they are. And it really is, it's really kind of a colonial mindset that says like, we'll look at a culture and a group of people and decide which are legitimate, which are positive, and which are not. That's a really dangerous way to look at things and to look at people. And I think this idea that that hip hop really is a representation of and an expression of humanity, of like what it means to be a human being. Especially for a group of people that the public narrative is these people are not human. They don't have anything to offer other than their bodies being attractive, other than free labor, other than they're funny, they're anything, but it always stopped short of not only being human, but also being the leaders for this time. And this is something that I always that's if nothing is taken away from what I'm saying here, is that when we're talking about the survival, like why does hip hop still resonate in the Black community as being so respected? Because of Black Islam, because of Noble Drew Ali, Elijah and Clara Muhammad, Malcolm and Betty Shabazz, basically drew this connection to the modern world is based on so many lies. And the greatest of which is that we're not human, you know? And so that connection was made very, very clear and very real. That when it's time to really look at the modern world for the deep and profound lies in it, that Islam is going to be what's going to allow that to happen. And the degree to which others have still are looking to fill in that gap, you know, to where folks engage the modern world and engage the modern ways of being and thinking and prioritizing things in life, and looking up to people who colonized them, looking up to people who subjugated them, looking up to people and restructuring the priorities. I'm gonna just be very, very frank and say that a lot of our folks, a lot of the Muslim community, it's really a little jarring for a lot of us that come from inner city Black Islam into the broader Muslim community, because for us, Islam is about acknowledging and correcting the wrongs and the lies in society, to see so many Muslims coming from places that were colonized by white people, looking to emulate them and to drive what they drive, live where they live, go to school where they went to school, wear what they wear, and prioritize life the way they prioritize it.
Yeah.
And so many Muslims view Black people the way that white people view them. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, well, yeah, we'll let you sing for the kids. We'll let you do poetry for the kids after everyone has talked about the real knowledge. Why is the knowledge relevant in the first place? You know, not only have the scholars made that very clear. So this conversation that we're having, I mean, there's no better way to look at what we're talking about than Islam and the Black American, by Dr. Sherman Jackson. Also, I think Dr. Omar Farouk Abdullah's paper, Islam and the Cultural Imperative, also describes this very clearly. And Dr. Omar is somebody that's very aware of the reality that, you know, because Islam was made part of Black culture, it's just normal for Black people to be Muslim. Not only is it normal, it's understood that mom and grandma and aunties and uncles are Christian. So that's the family experience. But even Black Christians know that there's something in Islam that's going to be a little bit more native. That's going to be and it also is going to be a way out of the matrix. And so I think there's not a way for a person, in my opinion, and maybe it's just because it's my experience, but I don't think so. I think there's not a way out of the matrix of modernity except for understanding and really looking to the African diaspora, the Black world, as the leaders, the exemplars for survival, not only survival in a material sense of, like I said, buying stuff and living in nice homes and things like that, but the survival of the soul. Like, man, when we stand up and perform in Muslim events that are not majority Black, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Because people don't know how to engage music.
Right.
People don't know, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, people looking around and like, I don't know what to do. What's your body say to do?
Yeah.
And what's your body say to do? What does your body say to do? Is there something against the Sharia about moving your upper body and your seat to the music? Is there something against the Sharia about snapping your fingers? Is there something about, why can't you listen to your body? Who made it so you can't listen to your body and you don't know what your body is saying to do? It's really strange to have to perform in those experiences, in those environments. And I know that it's because of colonialism. I know it's because the same thing that's been done all over the world, it was done most intensely and most intently and most scientifically to the Black diaspora. But look at what they did in response to that. Every form of cultural expression that the modern world knows comes from them. If a group of people created just one of these art forms, it would be something for the book. If Bob Marley, coming from this little island, this tiny little insignificant island of Jamaica, could create Rasta culture all over the world. If that just happened to be something we don't remember, we still mention Rumi, for example. And I'm in Turkey right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm in his land right now. We're still mentioning Rumi. Rumi is that one. But you're talking about jazz took over the world,
Right.
blues took over the world, funk took over the world, gospel took over the world, R&B took over the world, rock and roll took over the world, and now hip hop is taking over the world. All of these art forms that people use to engage their identity and in the world of meaning, all of them come from the same group of people. You know, it's really difficult. And Mass does great work with all this stuff, and that's why I feel comfortable saying this here.
Yeah.
Although I'd say it anywhere if somebody gives me a mic, because
Yeah.
nobody hands me a mic. Nobody gives a damn about anything I have to say. If it wasn't for what Black women and men taught me, which first and foremost is how to live in a body that people don't accept. So when it's like, you know, at post 9/11 and the woke movement and all that stuff, to just be using his language and to be using these, and to be borrowing and appropriating the framework of human rights that was established in the Black experience. I think it really is essential to the survival of this community to really understand what God has done in the last 500 years. Mm-hmm. We're not just talking about since the 90s, since Snoop Dogg came on the scene. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about who has survived this in a way that's given other people permission to be human and given people a blueprint for what it looks like to be human in the face of white body supremacy. So this is about survival to me. And I don't know if I don't know if the like Western American Muslim community or in Canada and the UK and all over all of the places where people have been colonized, and so they move to the places where white people are. You know, I would love for there to be an Elijah Muhammad moment for our brown family. I would love for there to be somebody that says, hey, maybe these people don't love us so much. Maybe these people aren't to be emulated. They're human beings. And when you and how many white people, like I said, convert to Islam because of Malcolm and because of 9/11, because somebody tells them that when white people read Malcolm, there are certain people that are going to be like, I don't like this, it's uncomfortable. But the people that embrace Islam is because finally somebody's telling the truth. I knew this thing that I was trying to live up to was sick and it's not real. So finally somebody gives me permission even to throw it off, you know.
Yeah. No, really powerful. I wish we had 4 hours rather than 40 minutes. I want to just maybe to close, you know, each of you, to hear from you now about the global opportunities really for a solidarity, for a working solidarity. You know, you know better than me, you know, how global hip hop, right, has become.
If it's okay, I'll go first so Sister Taslima has the last word.
Okay.
Taslim.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. What are the opportunities here? You know, what are the priorities here? Yeah.
Well, I think again, the priority is survival of the soul, survival of the spirit, survival of the health, you know, the holistic health that Sister Taslim speaks about and works on and coaches people on and teaches them and instructs on. I mean, you know, this is just one example of a person who, like I'm saying, look at this amazing woman and her incredible husband. You know what I'm saying? And you know, the shining examples they are of how to survive, how to be healthy, how to be holders of the story. When she mentions her husband, she doesn't say that he's a historian as like an analogy. Like this man literally curates museums and is like a genuine keeper of tradition. And then Sister Taslim is a griot and a healer. You know what I'm saying? So what we're really talking about is the survival of our spirit and of our soul. And if we're not able to really understand the significance and the importance of culture, the significance and importance of art, the artists are the only people in the modern world that have even permission to look beyond the material into the world of meaning. And so if this community, if this, you know, global ummah really wants to survive with our souls intact, then we have to know who the teachers are that God sent us.
Yeah. Thank you. Taslim?
Well, I just wanted to say that, my husband, plug out to my husband, Dr. Khaled El Hakim. So amazing husband, alhamdulillah. And talk about world Islam. And actually, I just came back from Senegal. And so Medina Bay for a Maulid. So just as a Black person in America, going to West Africa is such a deep, powerful spiritual experience that the poet doesn't even have words yet for it every time. And getting on that, even on the plane, I'm watching it ascend into the car, and I'm like, my ancestors jumped over, and some are still there, and I'm coming back on the airplane. Just the thought of me feeling like, especially in this time, I'm just like, wow, I don't even want to go back. But coming back to America, I said, this is my home too. And I felt like Harriet Tubman coming back. I said, I got to go get my people, to show them the beauty of Islam, to show them the beauty of their soul, to show them the beauty of what is still in their DNA. And to me, hip hop is just a voice for the people that especially attracts the youth, as most movements start with the youth, but it also attracts every age group. Music, the vibrational chanting of music. I think about when I was in Medina Bay, being there, people just singing and praising God all day long. And it's in our very spirit of those early hip hop artists who we praise God through hip hop. We praise God like Rakim, like Nas. It's the same way I praise God in my poetry, whether I'm talking about, oppression in the streets or liberation, that's still praising God, because God does not like oppression. God likes liberation for women. God likes healing. God is, the ultimate love, which to me, is not just for Black people, it is for the world. And Allah just uses, to me, Black people and African people of that, in a broader sense, because of the experience that we went through. I think He put something just special in us to be able to love Mother's creation for everyone. So to me, it still is the voice for those who are oppressed. And I think people like Brother Ali just leading the way to show the world how to do hip hop in that way without it being oppressive, with keeping it at a high vibration. And so I think it's something that the world needs right now, an expression. And like I said, I know coming even out of this, it's going to be some more amazing work, because it's pushing us in this. It's like a cleansing right now going on the earth and inside all of us. And you realize, like Bob Marley, it is about one humanity. And even like he said, those people, white people who may read Malcolm X, to me, it's because all our bodies are sacred and are beautiful, no matter what color you were born in. And so to me, it's for you, if you were born in a white body, and to look at it and say, okay, we're all really one vibration and one love. So if you look at that and you see that, that's for you for those times. It's really just a test to see, like, okay, we really all are one, and you're going to allow it to be a test to keep you thinking that you're better than someone because of a color of a skin, or you're going to go in a vibration of higher healing and love. So that's what hip hop is to me.
Allah.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for your time, for sharing your time with us, for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us today. I mean, you are both, I say this as your brother, but I also say this for the benefit of our audience. You two are both pillars, treasures of our ummah and of the human family, and pillars of this culture. And I really appreciate you being here with us today and everything that you do. Really, thank you so much. To everyone who tuned in, thank you so much for spending this time with us. There were some questions that I wasn't able to get to, but please follow up by staying in touch with both the organization and each of these artists and educators. Please follow Brother Ali and Sister Taslim Jamila on their, find their websites and their social media. Continue to benefit from them while we have them. So thank you so much, all of you. May Allah accept. Please forgive me for my shortcomings in running this, and it was my absolute pleasure to spend the time with you regardless. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, a great weekend. May Allah bless you, keep you safe, bless you and your loved ones with the best of this life and the best of the hereafter. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.